Welcome back, fourth grade readers and writers, to ELA School Away from School. And just a reminder, I'm your virtual teacher, Mrs. Ewing. All right, so yesterday we were introduced to a new text, and we really dove in that text to find the main idea and supporting details. Today we're going to work in that same text, but we're actually going to hone in on just a section of that text and really work on our skills as readers who find the meaning of unknown words and phrases. All right, so before we get started, let's remind ourselves of our guiding questions. The first guiding question says, what can we learn from the process of ratifying the 19th Amendment? How can stories inspire us to take action to contribute to a better world? How and why can we encourage and support others to contribute to a better world? As we work today, I want you to keep those guiding questions in the back of your mind. All right, let's collect our materials. You're going to need our text, Women Who Fought for the Vote. You're going to need a lesson 11 and your lesson 11 note catcher. Just a reminder, all those materials are in your ELA packet. And then you're going to need a sharpened pencil. All right, pause this video and gather your tools that you're going to need today. Great. Now that we have our tools, we're ready to work. So let's look at our learning target for today. I can determine the meaning of general and domain-specific words and phrases as they pertain to the article, Women Who Fought for the Vote. All right, so we're going to be finding unfamiliar words and phrases. And specifically today, we're going to be using 3 strategies to do this. We're going to be thinking, can I use context clues? Can I look at an affix within an unfamiliar word to help me? Or can I look at the root word to help me? And then if all else fails, you can also use a dictionary. All right, let's dive in so we can do more work around this learning target. Before we begin though, we want to reread the text. Today, we're not going to reread the whole text. We're just going to reread a section of the text. So in your reading or your article, I want you to find the subheading Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Now you can find that on the second page about halfway down. When you find that section with a family member, a caregiver, or a friend, I want you to pause this video and reread that section. Great. Now that we've reread that section, let's do some thinking. Before though, I give you time to think, I do want to give you a couple reminders. Remember I said we're going to find the meaning of unfamiliar words and phrases, and we're going to use some strategies to do that. So I want to remind you that close readers use strategies to figure out the meaning of words they do not know. First strategy you can use, the context of what's happening in the text. So you can read the sentences around the word or around that phrase to help you. You can also look at the affixes for clues. Remember, affixes can come at the beginning or the end of the word. In this example, we gave in this case, we gave the example of disapprove. You could look at that affix dis, which means not, to help you figure out the meaning of the word. You can also use the root words. So in this, for example, again, in disapprove, you could use the root word approve to help you think about, oh, what must this word mean? And once again, you can always use a dictionary to help you. But I'm really going to encourage you to use the dictionary as a last resort, because I first want you to really develop those skills and strategies for finding these unfamiliar words and phrases. Okay. So here's what I want you to think about. First, what is this section mainly about? And how does this section support the main idea of the whole text? Remember I told you we can use the context of what is happening in that text to help us. So this is going to help us start thinking about what is the section mainly about and how does this section support the main idea of the whole text. All right, go ahead and pause this video and I want you to read about it, or I want you to think about what the section is mainly about and how does the section support the main idea. Great. All right, now that we've done that, I want you to specifically think about that word fighter. How is the word fighter used in the text? All right, pause this video and do some thinking around that. Great. All right, now that you're thinking about how's the word fighter used in the text, what is another word you could use for the word fighter? Great. Now that you've thought about this, let's talk to our family member, our caregiver, or our friend about the following questions. All right, first question. How is the word fighter used in the text? And what clues can you find in the text that help you understand the meaning of this word? Pause this video and talk about this now. Great. All right, now that you started to talk about how the word fighter is used, clues to help you understand it, I want you to think about why was the word fighter used to describe Elizabeth Cady Stanton? Pause this video and talk about that now. Great. All right, what is a synonym? Remember, a synonym is a word that means the same. What is a synonym for the word fighter as it's used in the text? Pause this video and talk about this now. Great. Whenever I try to find a synonym or a word that means the same, something that helps me is that I go back in that text and I actually fill that word in that I came up with for the word. Like, for example, if I came up with champion would be another word for fighter, I could take that word champion, fill it into the sentence or the phrase, early champion for women's rights. And if it makes sense, it's a good clue for me that that's a good synonym for that word. All right, last question I want you to talk about. What does the phrase early fighter for women's rights mean? Pause this video and talk about it now. Great. All right, now that you've done this work and you've had these really good discussions, I want to just think aloud for you a little bit of some things that you might have talked about. If I go into this text and I have it over here, I see that phrase in that section where it says Elizabeth Cady Stanton was an early fighter for women's rights. So right there, there's my phrase. But then I'm going to read on. In 1848, she helped put together the first women's rights meeting. All right, so I'm coming to find out, when they call her a fighter, they're not talking about her being a boxer punching in the ring. They're talking about her fighting for women's rights, her being a champion. Oh, that could be a synonym. Her being a soldier for women's rights, her being a warrior for women's rights, for her standing up for women's rights. You see that? So if I think about that phrase there, it says early fighter for women's rights. So not only did she champion women's rights, but it said she was an early fighter. So she must be one of the first people to actually fight for women's rights. And this is proven. Remember I said I could read the sentences around the word or phrase to help me? If I look at that next sentence, it said she helped put together the first women's rights meeting. You see how that helps to support the idea that this phrase, early fighter for women's rights, means that she was one of the first people to actually stand up for women. All right, so now that we've talked about that, let's do some writing. All right, so on the lesson 11 note catcher, record the meaning of the word fighter and the phrase early fighter of women's rights as it is used in the text. Then I want you to record how the phrase supports the main idea of the whole text. So let's look at this note catcher. In the first row, it asks you to write the meaning of the phrase early fighter for women's rights. Once you've done that, below it, you're going to put some of the clues from the text that supports your answer. We just talked about this, right? So think about our discussion we just had. Then in the third row, you're going to write that synonym that you just talked about for the word fighter. And in this last row here, you're going to write, how does this phrase support the main idea of the whole text? Remember, you can refer back to the lesson 10 note catcher to help you with the main idea of the whole text. All right, pause this video and go ahead and do your writing activity. Great. All right, now that you've had a chance to organize your thoughts, to really capture those great discussions we've had, I want to tell you what we're going to do in closing. I want you to now take this writing activity and I want you to share your writing with someone and tell them why you chose to write what you did. Make sure you're referring back to that text and using examples from the text. Then I want you to after you've completed this writing activity and this assignment, I want you to read a book with a family member, a caregiver, or a friend for at least 20 minutes. Then you're going to do your fluency practice. So remember, you can use a timer. It can be a kitchen timer, a cell phone timer. You can have someone count to 60, but you want to read that passage for 1 minute. When you're done reading, you're going to count those words up and you're going to put your word count at the top of the page. So this is our second day doing this fluency activity. So you should see that number increasing. All right, great. Awesome work today. Tomorrow, we're going to dive deeper into this text again, and we're going to do some work with the historical events that we're noticing that are happening in this article. All right, great. See you tomorrow.